Hi, this is Tim of the 1916 Company. Welcome and thanks for logging on. If you love this watch, email me. I am still Team Mosso at thewatchbox.com. It is still in the description below. It is still your purchase and pricing email question line for buying this or any watch you see on any of our platforms. Please reach out to me directly. I am Team Mosso at thewatchbox.com for pricing. Today, we're discussing the Vacheron Constantin in stainless steel. It is the last and the best of the line. This example, part of the rare series 100 meters water resistant, is a unique reference that was only made from 2017 through the very beginning of 2019 when the model variant was discontinued. So, having established that this is a very special version of a very special watch, let's talk about the basics. In stainless steel, the watch is 41 millimeters in diameter, 12.2 millimeters thick. It's actually quite thin. It is a substantial 50 millimeters from lug tip to lug tip, and it has a broad 23 millimeter spacing between the lugs. On my wrist, which is 16 centimeters in circumference, you can see it is large. Form watches, that is watches that are not round, tend to wear a little bit large, and this feels more like, frankly, a 42 or a 43. It's not thick, though. You can see it'll easily slide underneath the cuff. That's the one dimension where it is not terribly large, but you can see from over the top that the watch is pretty much out to the edge of my wrist. I'll give you the benefit of the down the barrel shot so you can decide. I think a 16 centimeter circumference wrist like mine can wear this just fine, and to that end, you can see how large my arm is, how large my hand is. I would be very comfortable here. I think 15 centimeters circumference is going to be borderline, but we have a 7-day no questions asked return policy, so you can try literally before you buy. Taking a quick look at the strap, it is very substantial. Now, the watch can also be had on a Vacheron factory rubber strap, which is quite useful since this is a swimmable watch. We have large rectangular scale alligator leather on the top, matte finish, dark blue, though not the darkest, and you can see it has a monotone stitch and then a sheer cut edge, so it's been cut showing the enormous layers of leather used with some bolstering internally and then painted to square off and create a seamless flank. On the underside, you can see black calfskin. This is a Vacheron factory strap, no crimping, no gouging. The watch comes with a full clasp, and you can see in sporting style, it is made of steel, just like the watch. It has twin trigger release, so it's not friction fit. You must squeeze the triggers, both of them, for this to open up. Internally, you can see media blast and polish. Here's a Maltese cross motif. That is the logo of the brand. You can see another one on the exterior of the buckle. And then on the case, you can see it has tiered lugs. A little bit of an Art Deco look to the profile, almost like the arcing top of the Chrysler building. This tiered look giving it a sharp, angular set of shoulders and an impressive stance on the wrist. You can also see the distinction between satin and polish, and there are quite a few breaks between the two different types of finish on the case, which has slightly recessed case band, and then several layers leading up to a relatively narrow conical bezel that's bracketed at the four corners by the lugs. We have a Maltese cross on the crown, and though the watch is 100 meters water resistant, it still has a push-down crown. The only way to know if you've got the water-resistant version of the watch is it must say 4500S/1. By the way, you can also see the whole watch is Geneva hallmark, not just the movement. But if you don't see 4500S/1, then you're looking at the older 30-meter version. That can't be used for swimming. This can. Now, back to the dial side. The Constantin came out in 2008, and it was just the wrong watch at the wrong time. Too big, too expensive, too abstruse, with all sorts of anti-counterfeiting and currency printing technologies that made it more technically interesting than aesthetically attractive. Well, Vacheron went through several cycles of simplifying the watch, and in 2016 gave us a version that was pretty much close to perfect. So 3 hands and a date in a steel case, but still Geneva hallmark. The blue version with the water resistance came later. So the blue was the last and, in my opinion, the best, as you get a combination here of a steel case, a blue dial, I like color, and from 2017 on, water resistance. So the dial features indices and numerals that are radially arrayed. Those are actually solid blocks of luminescent material. Let's take a look at the lume on this watch and get a sense. As you can see, there's absolutely no shortage of it. You might even argue that it's better lumed than the overseas. You could see how the radial date system works, as it has an index that orbits the center of the dial. The numerals themselves don't move. There we go. trying to maintain focus here. Autofocus doesn't like the dark. Okay, my camera's afraid of the dark, but you should not be. This watch is very well loomed. Detail is excellent. As you can see, we have a sapphire over the dial, which is nicely cambered and curved, but then we also have a second sapphire that sits over the numerals of the date display. The hands, if you look carefully, they are actually blackened and then satinated to resist glare, which is a nice upscale look and finish. We also have sectors outboard in which you can read the individual seconds and the minutes. The only feature the watch does not have is hacking seconds, but that's actually a good thing because it means you don't have one of the 2450 or 2460 automatics. You've actually got the full-fat 5100 from the overseas self-winding. So the only difference between the spec you have here and the spec in the overseas is that the overseas gets a rose gold rotor and this one is tungsten, but still you can see it's finished attractively. At center, we have ceramic ball bearings or hybrid ceramic ball bearings to energize a 60-hour power reserve. Remember, the 2450s and 2460s are just 40. This is 60. You can see it does have the Poinçon de Genève as it meets the standards of the Geneva hallmark. It's also a bigger movement than the other Vacheron automatics, nicely filling this case back. Taking a quick look, you can see it's got a combination of 37 pivot jewels and 5 position adjustment, which is the standard you'll find on chronometers and high horology watches. And this is definitely that. We have broad stripes with a handsome shading gradient across the bridges. You could see the locating pegs used to locate the bridges on the base plate feature mirror polished tops. All the screw heads feature chamfered slots in circumference, as well as mirror polishing on their tops. There's satination on the wheels. There's also beveling inside all of the jewel sinks and engine turning on the base plate. You can really see that the bevels are nicely laid. They're long, they're luminous, and they are exceptionally attractive. A little bit hard to see maybe on this camera, but it's evident to me in person that this movement is the real deal. On par with Patek and Lange and far better than what you'll find on AP or JLC. Of course, it beats at 4 hertz and all this water resistant down to 100 meters. Geneva hallmark, a little note about that. Since mid-2012, roughly, it has been a standard for the whole watch, the dial, the case, and the movement, not just the finish of the movement. And while you can get a Vacheron 56 self-winding that is the lowest priced point of entry to Vacheron ownership, here you've got an automatic winding steel watch with lumen water resistance that is still a Vacheron manufacturer movement and Geneva seal, which the 56 self-winding is not. The value proposition here at well under $20,000 is self-evident. Reach out to Team Mosso at thewatchbox.com for purchase and pricing details.